The house was never quiet because of silence. It was quiet because words had slowly stopped choosing to live there. Every morning, sunlight entered through the thin curtains of the bedroom, touching the walls they once painted together on a Sunday afternoon when they still believed colors could protect love. Ayan used to wake up first. He would lie still for a few seconds, listening, not for sounds, but for feelings. There was a time when he could feel her even before opening his eyes. Her breathing, her warmth, her presence felt like reassurance that life was working. Now, he just felt the bed. Mira would wake up minutes later, turning slightly away, pretending to check her phone. Not because she had messages, but because facing him felt heavier than facing the world. They never spoke about it. They never fought. Their love didn't break loudly. It thinned, day by day, like air slowly leaving a room. But it had not always been this way. Once, this house was full of promises spoken carelessly, lovingly, fearlessly. They met in a place that didn't feel important at the time, a small cafe near the university library. Mira was struggling with a book too heavy for her arms. Ayan noticed, stood up, and helped her without saying much. Their fingers touched briefly, accidentally, and something soft passed between them, nothing dramatic, just warmth. The kind that feels safe. They started sitting at the same table every afternoon. They talked about everything and nothing. Dreams that were unclear, fears they didn't yet know how to name. They listened more than they spoke. Love arrived quietly, without announcing itself. When Ayan first held her hand, it wasn't romantic music or fireworks. It was raining outside. They were standing under a broken shed, laughing at how small the world felt when rain erased everything else. His hand reached for hers instinctively, as if it had always belonged there. Mira didn't pull away. She didn't smile either. She just held back, firmly, like someone protecting something precious. That was how they loved, gently, carefully, deeply. They promised small things at first. I'll always listen. I won't disappear. Even if we fight, I'll stay. Later, those promises grew bigger. Marriage, a home, forever. The house they bought wasn't perfect. The paint peeled in some corners. The kitchen light flickered. But they stood in the empty living room, hands intertwined, imagining birthdays, late-night talks, tired evenings, shared silence that wouldn't feel lonely. In the beginning, it didn't. They learned each other's routines. Mira liked her tea too sweet. Ayan hated mornings but loved sunsets. They left notes for each other, on the fridge, on the mirror, sometimes inside books. When life felt heavy, they sat on the floor, backs against the wall, saying nothing, knowing that presence was enough. Love grew in those spaces where nothing extraordinary happened. But life doesn't destroy love with disasters. It does it with schedules. Ayan's work grew demanding. Long hours, constant pressure. He started coming home tired, his mind still trapped in unfinished tasks. Mira understood at first. She adjusted. She waited. Mira, too, had her own battles, dreams she put on hold, ambitions she quietly folded away because marriage needed compromise. She told herself love meant patience. They stopped having long conversations. Not because they didn't care, but because they assumed there would always be time later. Later became a dangerous word. They still ate dinner together, but with screens between them. They still slept in the same bed, but with invisible walls. When Mira spoke about her day, Ayan listened, but not fully. His eyes nodded, but his mind wasn't there. When Ayan shared his stress, Mira comforted, but her words felt rehearsed, not felt. Neither of them noticed when affection turned into responsibility. They didn't argue. They didn't accuse. That was the most dangerous part. Everything seemed fine, but love doesn't die from hatred. It fades from neglect. Mira started keeping her thoughts to herself. Not because Ayan wouldn't listen, but because she felt tired of explaining emotions that never ended. She learned to smile at the right moments. She learned to say, "It's okay," when it wasn't. Ayan noticed the change, but he interpreted it as peace. He thought silence meant stability. He didn't realize silence was her way of surviving disappointment. They still said, "I love you," but it sounded like habit. Like locking the door before leaving, not conscious, just automatic. One night, during a power outage, they sat in darkness. No phones, no distractions, just them and the quiet. The candle flickered between them, casting shadows that felt unfamiliar. Mira looked at him and almost spoke. The words were ready. Years of unsaid emotions stood at the edge of her lips. But Ayan broke the silence first, talking about work, about deadlines, about stress. Mira nodded, listening, holding her words back once again. When the lights returned, so did the distance. That was the night she realized something painful. They were together, but alone. Emotional distance doesn't announce itself. It teaches you how to function without connection. It teaches you how to live beside someone without reaching them. Mira stopped waiting for him emotionally. Ayan stopped noticing her absence emotionally. The house remained full of furniture, of memories, of promises, but empty of intimacy. Then came a moment neither of them expected. Ayan fell sick. Nothing dramatic, just exhaustion collapsing into weakness. For the first time in years, he stayed home. Mira took care of him, quietly, gently. She cooked. She checked his fever. She sat beside him at night. In his vulnerability, Ayan saw her again, not as a routine, not as a responsibility, but as the woman he once loved without effort. He noticed the tiredness in her eyes, the softness she still offered despite everything. He realized how much he had missed, not her presence, but her heart. One evening, weak but honest, he said, "I feel like I lost you, while living with you." Mira didn't cry. She didn't get angry. She just exhaled, deeply, as if she had been holding her breath for years. "I didn't go anywhere," she said softly. "I just stopped knocking." They talked that night like strangers rediscovering each other. Slowly, carefully, painfully, they spoke about unmet needs, about assumptions, about how love turned into coexistence. Some things healed, some things couldn't. Love doesn't always survive awareness. Sometimes understanding comes too late to restore what was slowly eroded. They didn't separate dramatically. They didn't stay unhappily either. They chose honesty. They chose to rebuild, not the same way, not with old promises, but with new boundaries and realistic love. A love that knew distance existed and required effort every day. The house didn't change, but they did. Some days were warm, some were awkward, some were heavy, but silence no longer pretended to be peace. They learned that love isn't just about staying, it's about reaching, again and again, even when it feels uncomfortable. And in that house full of promises, they finally understood the most painful truth: emotional distance isn't created by lack of love, it's created when love is assumed instead of nurtured. The house remained standing. So did they. Not perfect, not healed completely, but aware. And sometimes, awareness is the most honest ending love can.